Behold, the most shameful piece of clothing that I own. This is a jalaba. It's one of the traditional clothing in Morocco. To all my podcast listeners who can't see the visuals, imagine the most horrible, garish red jacket and then put a Ku Klux Klan hood on it. It's not shameful because of how it looks, even though it makes you look like a shitty Jedi. This piece of clothing represents that I can be scammed, that I can be lied to. I bought this jacket whilst I was living in Morocco about a year and a half ago. I was sort of running the clock for a visa that I needed to get to start working here in the UK, and it was getting quite cold up in the mountains, so I decided I needed a jacket. Long story short, I kind of got lured into this shop, and they put on a display of authenticity as if they were making the jacket there themselves, as if everything was handmade, everything was natural. So I was primed to believe them, but over the next few days, as I started talking to tourists that were also staying in the hostel that I was living in, and we started comparing jackets and the prices and the like, I realized that no, they all came from the exact same bloody shop. And not only that, but I had massively overpaid. I ended up paying about 60 to 70% more than what I was supposed to. The point is, for several weeks after, I felt ashamed of wearing the jalaba, more for what it represented than the clothing itself. This jacket shows that I'm only human. This is physical proof that I'm gullible. This was quite a blow to my ego, because oftentimes we like to believe that we are immune to advertising, propaganda, and everything else. So that's for dumb people. We intellectuals would never fall for such a thing. And truth is, we do. Probably harder than anyone else, but simply because we believe that we're above that sort of thing. I believe to be immune to getting scammed or lied to because supposedly my superior intellect. Bullshit. I think many people suffer from the same thing. They think they know better. They're not willing to get off their high horse and realize that they're just buying shitty jackets. You only realize that you bought a shitty jacket by talking to other people who have different experiences, but similar enough that you can compare notes. This happens because of what they call the Savannah IQ hypothesis, or in evolutionary psychology, it's the perceived phenomenon that intelligent people tend to act quite stupidly. Reason being that any novel evolutionary behavior is associated with intelligence. But the thing is, for it to be novel, it doesn't necessarily have to be good. For example, a drug habit is novel, as Stone Age people would not engage in drug habits. Alcoholism, or staying up late, or stuff like that. All that is associated with intelligence, but so is computer programming. So often it's the smart people who act stupidly, whereas the dumb people tend to go with common wisdom, with ideas that have been tested by time and whittled down to their bare essentials. So they often behave rationally, even despite not putting thought into it. So that's the thing. You have to actually compare your preconceptions to reality. You are not dissimilar from most people out there. I think in determining whether or not rules ought to apply to you, you should take the mediocrity principle, which is a principle that astronomers use to explain the likely existence of aliens in other worlds, because they take the idea that the Earth is probably a mediocre place, in the sense that it's not likely to be an outlier. It's likely to fall in the middle of the bell curve. So in the same way, I think there ought to be an intellectual mediocrity principle. In so doing, you can start understanding that, again, you might be intelligent, you might be well read, but you can still act in a stupid manner. You can still buy shitty jackets. You can still engage in bad behavior despite knowing better. You and everyone around you can be wrong. And this goes for any ideology, any belief that you have. You should reconsider it. Do not take anything for granted, because when you do, you will fall for scammers. You will fall for snake oil salesmen selling you random crap that you do not need, that you do not want, but it'll screw you up. So I got off lightly. I just ended up buying a shitty jacket. But there are other jackets out there, mental jackets, that are far more noxious, and once put on, they're very difficult to take off. If anything, be skeptical of any ideas that you hear. If you're constantly agreeing with someone, red flags should flash. You should be very skeptical if you find anyone you agree with wholly. And with that thought, I leave you this week. Goodbye.